I'm Autumn. I'm a singer-songwriter and mentor from Australia. I do mentor artists as well. I guess, like, for me, the reason why I wanted to do this is, being an empath has been such a critical thing in my life.
Mm,
And if I didn't go through the difficulties that I did as a younger adult and, up until I found out, I wouldn't have been able to uncover the gift that it holds. And so
mhm.
I recently have connected with a lot of empaths, and I feel that it reminds me so much of myself when I was younger and where I was at. And I just see that, maybe I could be of service and support them, because when you do get on the other side, it can be so beautiful, and so rewarding. And
Yeah.
for a lot of my life, I had this narrative that there was something wrong. There was something wrong with me and I was not normal. And I didn't fit in, and why didn't I fit in? And now I'm just starting to appreciate that I don't fit in for a reason. It's kind of like my purpose. I hope that this supports others out there, other empaths, particularly that are creatives as well, because I know a lot of creatives are empaths because they make music and, feel really intensely. And a lot of them don't know that they are, in fact, empaths. And so if they can channel that, I want to be able to be that support to bring that out even further.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So hello, I'm Annalie and I am a energy and sound healer. I am also a mentor and guide for sensitive souls and empaths, and I'm also a singer, songwriter, and creative. I really feel like this was an inner pull for me to do this. And it just seemed like the next space for me to grow and also be of service, because it's always in anything that I do, I feel like it's been deeply ingrained within me that whatever I do can help others. So, definitely on the same lines with you, in the sense that I really want this to be a source of support and insight and perspective and inspiration, hopefully, because I really wanted to really peel back. I feel like it's like peeling back the illusion of, what being an empath is and how it can be a superpower. Because I think a lot of people, whether they know it or not, find emotions really hard to deal with. We're not a society that is built with the understanding of how emotions work, and a lot of us tend to avoid them. And it was only when I could allow myself permission to fully feel the emotions that would come into my field and arise within me that I started to open up more fully. Because obviously, when you're closed, nothing can get in and nothing can get out. And so I really see the beauty in being able to open yourself up to yourself, to feel, to allow that energy to flow. And in that, I've been able to discover that I am actually very creative and the gift of allowing myself to feel these things, because these beautiful expressions of who I am then come out of me, and with little effort and just an organic beauty. And I really want people to receive that gift and uncover that gift for themselves.
I love that. So I guess, like, from my perspective, obviously I'm coming from the artist perspective who,
Mm.
over the last few years, I'm, learning more about my spirituality and my journey. And I guess, leading into that. So I guess that's where my perspective is. And I feel for yourself, your expertise have kind of been
The other
the
way
other way around.
around. I feel like we came together at a time that we needed each other. I feel like that's why I felt like it was so divine, because I was diving deep, like I dive deep into my spirituality and learning about my gifts as an empath. And then, coming up to this crossroads of like, oh, wow, I actually am creative. How do I express this in the world? I feel like there are a lot of people who may be on the spiritual path that have creative inclinations, but aren't really sure how to express them. And I think having your insight as an artist and then moving into learning and how it supported your artistry, and for me, vice versa, how my spirituality has supported my creativity, I feel like we have a holistic view, let's say, of like, different vantage points, I guess, and
Mm,
perspectives and insights based on our own experiences. I feel like that's what we want to share is our own experience. And this is kind of like going on a journey with us, exploring the ins and the outs of being an empath, a creative empath,
yeah.
really. Where do we start? Like, here we are.
Here we are. So I guess this came about because we became friends
We did. We
2 or
did.
so years ago.
Yes. It feels like more than that, though. It feels like
It
forever.
does. And I guess I was experiencing a time in my life where I needed guidance, and I ended up at the MBS festival in Melbourne and found myself at your table.
So, yeah. So, it's like, it's like divine synchronicity, I feel.
Yes, and I had never had a reading from anybody or, a psychic reading or just I'd never had anyone read for me, but I always felt like I had some sort of intuitive gift. And I saw your face and I had just found out, or I had found out that I thought I was an empath, and someone introduced this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, like I'm meant to see her. And your face was just so inviting. And I was like, it's just, I have to see her. And so I saw you, and I guess we really connected. And
We did.
I think we connected that day really well. And then there was a period where, I don't know, we had texted, and then
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how, but we ended up getting
back. Well, I know exactly how.
Yeah, you tell the rest.
But in saying that, I also felt a very strong connection to you when we met. And I was like, keep in touch. Like,
That's
please
right.
keep in touch. And then I remember you texting me and I was like, oh, yay. Like, because not many people, when I do these festivals, I don't get to see what happens or unfolds for people. And that in itself, what you just shared, I just want to point out, because that is such a strong empath trait.
Yes.
Where you see someone's picture, you can feel the energy emanating from that. Even just a photo, you can tap into feelings and emotions and energies, like just from looking at someone's photo, and you have an internal response to that. So sometimes you can look at something and go, ugh, or you could be like, yes, like
totally.
And so that I really wanted to point that out, because that's like
thank you.
Yeah, your internal guidance system really directed you to us then meeting, which was divine synchronicity. And so I think, like you said, there was a period where we sort of weren't in touch. And then, because when I read for people, and this is why I love reading for people, is I get to connect with them without all of the masks. I can see, and being an empath, you see through all of those like facades, like you see through all of the, what people think they need to be, and you see right at the heart of who they are. And so when I connect with people in that way, I love it, because as an empath, it's so hard to get to the root of who someone is, because we're all playing this game in life, trying to be something that we're not, or what trying to fit in that sense.
And on top of that, empaths are overwhelmed a lot of the time
massively
by their external.
Massively.
So we'll get fully into that. But
yes, we will. We will.
Yeah, I guess that's
how we met.
How we got here.
How we met. And then I was going through like a creative process, and really thinking about going into releasing a song like on Spotify, because
Mm.
I just had this like crazy awakening of my creative gifts and learning that I could songwrite and wanting to actually bring it into manifestation, and create it. And the first person that dropped into my head, because I knew that you were on this path of being an artist, and you had already released, I think, some songs on Spotify and all the major streaming platforms. And I was like, I need to get in touch with her.
Yeah,
And so that's when we reconnected. And I think that's when we really started to help each other, I feel like, through this process in different ways.
definitely. And I just, meeting you, I think was so pivotal for me in
Me too.
discovering my gift as an
Mm,
empath and understanding it and just all of it, like you've really been that guide to showing me, because I used to think of it as a burden.
it is for some people,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is. And it can feel like that for
Yeah.
sure, 100%. And I think both of us navigating that in our own individual journeys have
Mm,
really started to understand how much it can be a gift, and how much it actually supports creativity.
definitely. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here without it, you
Oh,
know.
me either.
Yeah.
Me either. Me either. Because it's essentially that part of you, it's that true, authentic piece of you,
Yeah.
that we want to kind of like suppress.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's how we came about. And last year in December, we decided to just get on. We didn't know why at the time, did we? We had no
No.
idea why we felt the call to just kind of get on a call. And I was like, I need to interview you. Like, people need to know, you know,
Like the
people need to,
story.
yeah, people just
Yeah.
need to know how you got from this point. Because when I met you, and to
Mm.
when I reconnected with you, and then to now, the growth that you've had as an artist, and as an individual, has been profound to watch. Like, just to witness you growing and attracting and manifesting everything that you have put your intention into. It's been remarkable to watch, and I feel like I wanted people to know, like I wanted people to get an insight, like what did you have to do that? Because I think a lot of people feel
Mm.
like they're banging their heads against the wall, not knowing what to do or how to,
Yeah.
approach creative projects, or because there's a lot that gets in the way, right?
100%. 100%. I think, yeah, like a lot of it was working on being in alignment
Yeah.
and kind of dealing with my, inner kind of issues, and then knowing myself and trusting myself,
Yeah.
obviously long story short here, but just kind of being guided and being myself and base essentially.
Yeah,
Being myself.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, that call was really strong, and I think that really birthed this
Yeah.
collaboration, because I think from that 6 months, and for people who are kind of listening to this now, you can check this out, because we did do that interview about is it more than 6 months though? Isn't it like
We
eight
did it in
months ago?
December. Yeah. 2020.
Yeah. And it kind of just sat there for a while, right? And then there was that period where you had just gotten because the reason we got to that point was that you were going through this process of becoming really comfortable with being on video.
Yeah.
And then you've just recently filmed a music video. And so it was like perfect timing for us to revisit that and see the growth
Yeah.
from the period of when you just got comfortable with doing like an interview kind of like thing. And then all of a sudden, you've just launched into, well, I'm going to do a music video.
Yes.
So I think that intention that we had, we just really wanted to peel back the layers and really show people like what goes on behind the scenes of creative projects and what sort of like barriers can get in the way from you expressing that out in the world and making that a reality. And then when we watched it back, that's when we just were like, oh my God, I think we need to do something.
Yeah, I really just sparked it. It just sparked something further. And then
Yeah.
I guess we sat and we were like, what would we even do? And the idea just kind of came to us in 2
And it was
hours.
so easy, right?
It was so easy, and the flow was there, and
the alignment, like what you talked about. I think when you're in alignment with who you really are, things flow a lot.
They just happen.
Like you don't have to make anything happen. You don't have to force anything. And I think this is really a new way of creating, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's that old way of like pushing and forcing and trying to do something with these ideas, as opposed to this really was an experience for me of it just dropping in my lap and me going, okay, let's do it.
This is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. And within, I think we only spoke about that 2 weeks ago, and now we're recording and we're here. And yeah, just the whole process was so effortless. And I feel like in my soul, I'm like, this is how it's meant to be.
And I think like you and I have interacted a lot with a lot of empaths lately. Like I know so many.
Huge.
And it just kind of, the pull was even stronger to be like, well, we need to try and support these people who need us, because it's really, really lonely when you don't know.
Well, isn't that like, okay, so I mean, the struggles of an empath, like you can feel very isolated in what you're going through, I think, because you look at the outside world and everybody's just like, they don't look like they're overwhelmed. Like they look like they're coping, they're just getting on with life, even though how busy they are or whatever. I just find myself, I know in my younger years, I struggled so much because I was then feeling like I had to pretend I was okay.
All the time.
But inside, I was like not okay at all.
And totally. And there's that classic label of like, people would say to me, oh, you're just so sensitive, or
I know.
Why are you so emotional? And then you just shut down and you're like, well, I won't say anything.
But that's because that's like essentially someone saying you can't be who you are.
Yeah.
And because empaths are so sensitive to everything around them, it's like not something that they can help. And I heard this analogy before and it really stuck with me. It's like telling someone to stop being so sensitive as an empath is like telling somebody who has allergies to stop having allergies.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like literally, it's like
exactly the same.
It's the makeup, and there is a what is it like mirror neurons in empaths that are more more sort of
like you're more susceptible to things.
Yeah, like it actually intensifies the feelings.
My light sensitivity is like insane. Like if anyone looks at my phone, my brightness is like 0.
Low.
Yeah. And they're like, how do you see this? And I'm like, I can see it. But should we maybe get into what an empath is?
Absolutely. I think we've touched upon like little things, and I think we really wanted to make this podcasts for people who are empaths and who are maybe like discovering that they might be, or questioning that they might be. So some like, did you want to start or did you want me to?
I'm happy for you to.
For me, okay.
Commence.
So I'm going to come from my own personal, because there's a lot of things on, you can Google empath and there are a lot of definitions about what an empath is. I can only come from my own experience of what it is. But for me, like an empath is someone who is so highly attuned and dialed in to energies. And because everything is made of energy, we are constantly bathing in energy. And so it's someone who is highly sensitive and attuned to energies, feelings, places, environments, animals, like that we're just very, very aware, hyper aware of everything around us. And that's why it can be really overwhelming, especially like if you go into a crowded place. It's like walking in and then you're hit with all of this information. So, energy for us, I feel like as empaths, is information. And it becomes like this stimulation of overloaded, feelings and emotions that we can then take on because we don't know. If we don't know that we're an empath, it can feel like emotional chaos because we don't know why we're feeling certain things in certain places and with certain people. Or after reading certain things, like we imprint, like we're tuned into the energy that's coming out of something. That's why I was saying when you saw my picture, you could feel my energy through that photo without me presently being there.
Yeah. And I love that definition because it's just perfectly explained it. And I guess adding on to that, I almost feel like sometimes we're like a magnet. And, it's
Yup.
almost like you just kind of, attract all of that energy and then you just feel it so intensely.
It's so deep.
So deep. Yeah.
Yeah. And it can leave you feeling, especially like I said, like if you don't know that you're an empath and you don't know what's happening to you, it can feel like you are drowning, drowning in everything. And you just can't breathe. And that's why a lot of empaths have anxiety. And there's a lot of other things with that, but I won't go into that topic. I think we can expand on that in another episode. But it's highly confusing. It's so confusing because you can walk into a place and say somebody's had a really bad or shitty day. You could walk in happy. As soon as you walk in and connect with that person, boom, you're like sad or angry or frustrated and you don't even know why. There's no reference point whatsoever. And so I think this is why we felt the call to really like speak on our own experiences as well as empaths, because it gives people kind of like a reference point, for what may be happening to them. And it then allows you understanding. When you can understand, then you're not fully taking everything and soak, because we're sponges. We're like we're sponges for that energy.
100%. And I think the other reason why we wanted to do this podcast was to help provide some strategies on how to manage on the, daily.
It's not something that goes away. You can't, it's not, and I wouldn't want to
turn it off.
Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't want to turn it off. I wouldn't want to get rid of it because it's an integral part of who I am. And it allows me to do the work that I do. Same. And you too, right? And so we've both been able to see the gifts in using our sensitivity to create and to do what we do here in the world. If by sharing our own experiences, it helps other people come to their own understanding of themselves, I think that in itself is a gift.
Yes. So maybe we can talk about how we figured out we were empaths.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can go first.
Sure. So I guess like growing up, as you kind of mentioned before, like I was just constantly overwhelmed by life, especially as a teenager. And I really remember when I was like 14, 15, like that age for me was just like really, really difficult and overwhelming, not to say the least, like including being a teenager with, adolescence and all of what comes with that, but just like overwhelmed by my environment a lot impacts me. And there was, challenges within my family home that I felt were, I always thought it was my fault. And my mum's kind of, had some difficulties, and me as a 15-year-old or 14-year-old didn't realize that I was taking a lot of that on for myself. And I remember just kind of being in my room all the time and thinking like, why do I feel so depressed? And why do I feel so overwhelmed? And like, why does no one understand me? And why do all my friends seem really happy? And right? And like
so resonant.
And I would be like, maybe something's wrong with me. And just this sense of like emotional overwhelm that I felt or that I couldn't control. And I was just so chaotic that
Mm,
with no explanation really, like, yes, there were things that I could put it to, but it was a lot of
yeah.
emotion. And
Yeah.
I know you relate to this a
I
lot.
totally do. Yeah.
And so, like, my whole life, I kind of went through this feeling always when I went out to shopping centers. I'd
Hmm.
feel so overwhelmed. I'd feel so suffocated. The lights would just drain me so much. And
Mm.
I thought, oh, this just must be normal. This must be what everyone feels. And
This is the norm, right?
this is the
Yeah.
norm. And nobody else around me kind of spoke about this. And like back then it wasn't really spoken about because no one really knew it. As I feel like there's more awareness of it now, but back
Yes.
then there was
100%.
there was none of that. And I just, for years and years, and it wasn't until I think I was like 24, 23,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, just before I met you, maybe. Or it might have been later, like 25, that someone I worked with, she was like, hey, because I got on with her really well. And she was like 10, 15 years older than me. And
Yeah.
she was like, hey, have you heard of an empath? And I was like, no. And then she's like, look this up. And she got me to do this test, right?
Yeah.
And it was like 20 questions.
Hmm.
And it was like, and we'll link the test in the notes, but it was like,
Yes.
do you feel really emotional when you watch sad things? Do you feel
Yes.
overwhelmed when you're around people? Do you
Yes.
like, yeah, do you feel sad when you see like, animals being hurt? And
Yes.
20, anyway, I got like 19 out of 20, which was like, you're a full blown fucking empath. And so I then, just kind of went down the path and like I bought all the books that I could find on this.
Yeah.
And the book was just this book that I'll link it as well. Was so spot on like that hypersensitivity and the lighting and the being around others and like
Hmm.
it just was like, oh my God, like this makes so much sense and maybe I'm not crazy.
Yes. I think that's the biggest thing that people, when they find out that they're an empath, there's almost like a permission slip there.
Yeah.
Like there's a sense of like liberation in the sense of,
Yeah.
oh my God, like I just misunderstood myself. Like I didn't know that this was what I was experiencing until someone puts words to it or someone can
Oh,
direct you into like, hey, just check this out. Like I think
just
a
have
lot
a
of
look.
people, I think a lot of people actually, I think you'd be surprised at how many people find out that way.
Oh, 100%. And like my friend recently has just
Mm.
found out and she was like, she was like, oh my God, like my
Yes.
whole life, she's in her 30s,
Yeah.
and she's like, I
Mhm.
can't believe my whole life I've been
Mhm.
feeling everyone else's shit,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like, it's just, there is a liberation. And I think like it's that thing what I was saying earlier is there are the labels around, oh, you're just so sensitive and you're
Too
so
sensitive.
emotional. Yeah.
Yes.
And it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
And that's just, it's really heartbreaking when people say that to you. It hurts a lot.
Yeah, as an empath as well,
It hurts
because we're
deeply.
like overly sensitive, in the most beautiful way. But yes, those words that people think are jokes can hurt us even more,
Totally.
because we are already quite, susceptible to those those
Comments.
words,
Yeah.
because we don't, and this is the thing about empaths too, is that they don't just receive the words.
Oh,
They receive the energy behind
Yes.
the words. So you could be saying something really nice, right? So say a friend was like complimenting you, right, on something, but then behind there was like jealousy or really like annoyed that you got whatever it was that you got or whatever it is, you know. There's another energy that's behind the words. Like empaths are fucking bullshit detectors. Like they know when something is not matching to what someone is saying because they see and read behind the words.
And then we often feel like crazy.
Are we crazy? Because this is what someone is saying to me, but I'm feeling
but I feel
this.
different. Yeah,
Exactly.
I feel this energy. So I feel like a lot of people struggle with that too.
Yeah, massively, because then your reference point is to always doubt yourself because you're looking externally for those reference points. And I think this is why, like, I'm so passionate about, like, you know, connecting with empaths so that they understand, because empaths live most of their lives looking external.
Yeah.
And living on the external plane. And because we're so connected to everything, it's very hard to find your sense of self in that. So I really see when I was able to kind of like come within and find out who am I without all of this stuff around me, what's my reference point and how does that feel like to me? And then from that place, then I can interact with the world and not get so overwhelmed with everything that's coming at me. And I think it's so important for people to know how affected they can be by like the most seemingly smallest thing can have a huge impact.
That's right. And I think that I really like what you just said, because the place we want to come from here is that we can operate in this world and we can do things. And, you know, like if we have the tools to support us, you know, we don't have to be locked in our houses and not go anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like there are times where I thrive when I'm around people. It's, you know, I definitely have those times and I'm leaning more into that, and it's just the right people. And it's
I was just going to say that. You really, you read my mind there, because I was like, it's the right people that make a difference, because we can tend to attract people who want to drain our energy vampires, because they can feel our energy. Because we are also, like, as empaths, from what I've come to know, is that we are receivers and also emitters of energy. And so we have the capability of being able to transmute feelings. That's why we've been built this way, to be able to transmute the feelings that are coming in. And then we can actually transmute that and put that out. So we get to choose what we want to emit out to other people. Because I remember a reference point for me was when I was a child, or when I was like, a child, my dad would always comment on how moody I was and how angry I looked, like just in my face or in my demeanor. That too. And you know how much it affected him so much that he had to tell me to stop being angry.
Yeah.
Because how I was being, and probably I wasn't actually, maybe I was feeling his stuff and just reflecting it back to him. But, you know, we have that capability of being able to emit that energy and make someone else feel that as well, because it's very strong within us.
It's not
That's
all,
a gift.
It's not all
it's
doom
and
not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom, but that's just one of the things. But yeah, it's a reference point. You know,
how did you find out you're an empath?
Oh my God. I found out quite late in life. So I started like my spiritual journey when I was 29. And through my own kind of research, and I also connected with a woman at my work who was a lot older than me. And she she really helped me hone in my gifts, like in terms of being able to sense and read and, you know, with spirits and stuff like that. You know, that's another episode.
Another podcast.
But it's like, she really kind of supported me in that way. Like she was like paying it forward for herself because she was alone in the process when she kind of like discovered that she had these abilities, you know? So for me, it was like a culmination of being in connection with her and having conversations, but then also finding out for myself
Mhm.
when I would ask Google questions.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's like Google always comes like with the
Google
right
delivers.
information. Google delivers all the time. So I would read these things and go, "Oh my god, wow." And then just through my journey, I would actually have experiences where I could then validate the information I was reading. Because sometimes we can read things and go, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Or because some of the things that I have read and only now, if I look back at the time, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's true for me, you know? But then I look back at it now and go, yeah, that's fucking true. Like you were just in denial, like, or you didn't understand
Totally.
what was happening. But I think, yeah, because I feel like I spent so much time looking outside of me that I needed that validation or that confirmation that the information I was reading was true. So I tried it on. And
Yeah.
then once I tried it on, I was like, oh my God, this is actually true, like for me.
I think like having you in my life as well really validated a lot for me. And it was almost
Mm,
like having a buddy, you
yes.
know?
Well, because you're so alone. Like I
Yeah.
like you as a child, like everything you expressed in your own experience was exactly mine. And I didn't even know that I had anxiety or depression
Yeah.
as
Same.
a kid. And I would isolate myself in my room. And that's something that empaths do because they need time away from others
To
to
regenerate.
recharge. Yeah. And to really come back to themselves. And they sleep a lot. And like, there's a lot that a empath needs to do to be able to feel themselves. And sometimes they go on like me. I didn't feel myself until I started going inward
Mm.
and looking and, exploring and discovering. But yeah, I was suicidal when I was 14. Like I had these thoughts of like, there's something majorly frigging wrong with me.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense that I would be suicidal,
Oh, me too. Me
like
too.
I was just like, I don't understand how this is coming up for me. But I want to say that empathy saved my life
Oh, me
because
too.
when I would have these ideations of, not being here anymore because it was so hard and so intense and so challenging and it was such a struggle just to hide behind a smile every day. I remember like going through the motions and I went to my kitchen drawer and grabbed out a knife and I was like had every intention of like slitting my wrists, right?
Mm.
And then I imagined my mom and my dad finding me and I was like, oh, I can't do that to them. I could feel their pain. I felt
Yeah.
every emotion and every pain within my body. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, and that empathy saved my life.
Yeah. That's so powerful though.
It's so powerful,
It
but I
really is.
didn't know that at the time, right? I didn't know. And I just from that was a point actually. That was a really pivotal point for me because once I kind of like went, okay, well, I'm not leaving. There's something I'm here to do. And I knew from that age that I was here to support people through my own experiences. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to help people who are just like me.
Me too.
Yes. I love it. I absolutely love it. And look where we are. Like, this is where
Yeah.
we find ourselves. And so, even from that early on, like in life, I think empaths know that they have a purpose and they have something they're here to do.
Yeah. And it just needs to unfold, I guess.
Yeah, because there's life
Yeah.
experiences that will always guide you. And I think like at this point, it's only been in the last like maybe 2 or 3 months that I realized that my work is with empaths. But it's so obvious though. Like, this is the thing. Like, I'm surrounded by empaths, and it's so good when you are connected with another empath. They just get you.
Just
Like,
get you.
they so get you. It's like you're not misunderstood. You don't have to
Oh, you don't have to
explain. Like,
hide.
yeah,
And
you
like
don't.
when you've had your quota of like, okay, I
It's
need to
enough.
go now.
Yes.
They
It's
get
okay.
it. They
Yeah.
get it, and they don't
It's
get
okay.
offended.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's funny because, like, you know, the extremes are so extreme. Like the lows are so extreme, and the highs are really extreme. So there
Yeah.
is that. I don't know what the word is, but just the contrast of that is
The
just
polarity.
yeah, the
It's
polarity.
like, I'm
Wow.
crazy. Like, I should be in a mental institution. Like, that's how I felt.
That's
I
how
felt
it
so
feels
crazy.
earlier
Yeah.
on. That's what,
Yeah.
when you're like not able to hone in and like ground and go, okay, is this mine? Like, and then work from that space. But
Yeah.
I just like, you know, I remember just going out and really just needing to go home all the time.
Mm.
And just even now, like in group environments, depending on who it is,
Yeah.
I always have to have like a strategy to leave.
Yeah. What's
Like,
my exit
what's my
strategy?
exit? Yeah.
My escape.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. It was like, do you drive in your own car so you can leave? And I was like, yeah, all the time.
I have control.
I have control to like
of my environment.
Yeah, but when I spend time with you one on one, you know, and other empaths, when I've had, you know, we forget what time it is. I'm in a time warp, and like I
know.
feel so
Filled
filled up, and that's just like, oh my God, like I've never experienced these type of relationships, and it's just so beautiful. They're so full. There's that level of understanding where you don't have to
Yeah.
hide. And
Yeah, and you don't have to pretend that you're not okay. Like, it's like,
yeah,
and I think that was the hardest thing, that like I felt like I had to always be happy.
yeah, same
And you know what they say, it's like the people who look the happiest often have the deepest kind of, you know,
stuff.
wounds
Yeah,
and stuff, you know. So it's yeah, and it's there's freedom in being able to express yourself in a way that is not going to be taken out
the
of
wrong way.
context. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have so
Yeah.
many friends where, you know, like they like to talk on the phone a lot, and like if
Mhm.
it's just not a good day, like I'll text them and provide
Mhm.
that support via text, and they understand that, you know, like they don't
Mhm.
take it the wrong way, and I'm still there for you. But I'm also within the realm of what I can provide. So
Yeah, and it's getting really honest with yourself, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
because I think as an empath you want to give,
so
like,
much.
there's so much inside because you have that empathy and that
Yeah,
compassion, and you understand people on a level that, you know, people who
yeah,
they don't understand, you know, you experience their life as if you've lived it.
yeah.
And so that's where that empathy and compassion can come from, and then you want to help.
Because you
And
never
there's
want anyone to feel pain, because
no,
you
because
know
you
what it
know what it
feels.
feels like.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. So that's how we found out.
Yeah, long story short.
Long story short.
But I just remember you had asked me one day, like, oh, like, do you feel when other people, do you feel physical symptoms? And
Mm,
I was like, no.
yes, yes, because this is a thing too. Like, because this goes beyond just having empathy for somebody. This is literally something that happens on a physical, mental, emotional level. And some empaths can be aware of it, and some empaths aren't aware of it, because it's like the more that you go deeper within yourself, I think that's when you start to see,
Yeah, you feel more.
whoa,
You feel everything.
more, because you're removing all the things that aren't
Stuff.
you, right? So and you're getting to the true essence of you. But you can, like, so there's emotional empaths who feel the emotions of others, and then there's empaths who actually feel physical symptoms of other people, and they can have both as well.
Yeah.
We were on the way to the break room.
Mm.
It's a place where you can break things. Because also, as empaths, we do struggle to express anger.
Yeah, it's
Right?
usually just bottled.
It's bottled
and it
up.
sits, the emotion sits.
Yeah, because a
Yeah,
lot of us empaths
in
are
the
scared to
body.
feel,
Yeah.
right? Because it's in your body and we have a hard time expressing ourselves because we weren't allowed to. And so, yeah, we decided we wanted to go and experience the break room because we both had a lot of anger we wanted to let go of. But we were on the way to there. And I remember, because was I feeling something?
You had like neck pain.
I had some, yeah. And I said,
Yeah.
is that yours? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. And this is one of the things that is a really telltale sign, is that if something just comes out of nowhere where there's no physical kind of like reference point that should occur.
Yeah.
Like as a result of whatever you're doing. So it wasn't like I was doing anything massively with my neck or whatever, but I just felt all this pain in my neck. And I knew I was a physical empath as well because of the work that I do, because I connect with clients and I feel everything. So I asked you that and you were like, yeah, my neck is sore. And then I said, do you feel it? Like, do you feel anything? And then you were like, nah, I don't feel any of that.
I was so adamant. I was
You were so
adamant.
adamant. And then you said something to me and I can't remember. Do you remember what it was?
Nah.
No, you said, no, you named a feeling you were feeling or like a sensation you were feeling. And then I said, that's mine. And I go, you're a physical empath.
Yeah. And I think like that's the thing, I didn't know because I hadn't gone that deep and I hadn't felt it before. And I was obviously like discovering myself and
I think you were not aware of it.
That's the right terminology. The awareness.
Yeah, I don't think you were aware, and I just kind of drew attention to it.
Yeah.
Because I could name the energy. And this is the best thing when you're around empaths who know what they're feeling and they name what they're feeling. Yeah. Then you're like, oh, that's not mine.
It's okay.
Need to take it on.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's so good. But I wanted to lead into another story of like when you and I went out. It was for your birthday, and we went and we did this Picasso and wine thing where you do painting and you drink wine. But because we're so sensitive, we don't drink. Yeah. And we got there and everyone was drinking wine. And I'm like, hey, do you feel tipsy?
And we had our fake wine.
We had our non-alcoholic wine.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm drunk. Like,
I know, we both felt so drunk and all of the symptoms of being drunk without actually drinking. And sometimes that's such a good thing because we don't actually have to drink.
It was fun.
And like, have you felt those reference points like throughout your life where you go out with people and you're like, because I feel like I've had that as well where like people are like, you haven't hardly drunk and you're already off your face. Like, and it's like, well, I'm in a party with so many people who are absolutely drunk. I'm feeling everybody else's.
I'm usually like, I typically cannot really drink a lot. Like I'll be drunk off one glass and everyone always,
sip for me.
Yeah, same. Like I'll be on the floor and everyone would make fun of me.
Me
and,
too.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm small. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
so am I.
But like, I remember being younger and going clubbing and being like, I feel off my face. Like this is really, really strange. Like, and because you're in a club and everyone's drunk and then there's everyone else's energy and the lighting and all of that. And I never understood and I just thought it was
See, that's a physical.
That I know. Now I know. And I was like, no, I'm not a physical empath.
I'm not a physical empath at all.
But remember when we went to the break room?
Yes.
We are so silly. We we didn't realize till days later that we should have like done a clearing because we went into this space where everybody was releasing their anger and was really, it was very intense. Like I remember just the heat in those rooms where
it was so hot.
It was so hot, like crazy. And then we were feeling really like off the
Well, the
next, was that
next day,
right?
I remember saying to you, "Hey, do you feel really tired?"
Yeah.
Because that's another telltale sign. It's like when you've spent time like with energies or people
Oh, yeah.
or in environments, and you get home out of that energy, and then you just feel so drained. And I
Drained.
felt like I had to sleep like for 2 days. I was like, I had to rest because I was so drained. And then I think we realized that we actually didn't, clear our energy before coming home. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest things with
Oh,
empaths to understand is that because we are so open, because that's how we connect with people, we are so open, we have energetic cords that attach to people, to environments, to things. And one of the things that is really like, I feel is like a survival, like
massive.
has to be in the survival kit
Has
for
to.
empaths.
Yeah.
Is clearing energies. So like, whether it's cutting cords, whether it is, just imagining like, that energy leaving your space, because we can take that home with us
Clearing
like
of the
massively.
yeah, clearing of the energy has changed my whole life. And I only started doing it a year ago, I think, when
Yeah.
you told me to start doing it. And
Yeah.
probably not even a year ago, but now I'm like, wow, I can feel myself,
Yes.
especially at night. At night, usually you feel you don't feel it as intense because everyone's
Yeah.
asleep and you're just feeling yourself.
Exactly.
But yeah, the clearings are so vital for empaths, especially that cord
100%.
stuff, because I remember you saying to me one time, sometimes cords can stick for months. And if you haven't
Oh, they'll be there forever.
forever, yeah, like forever and ever. And if you haven't envisioned cutting those cords with people, like they're going to stay, they're stuck.
Yeah. And if you imagine it as a physical cord, right? So
Yeah.
anything that they're feeling, emotions, things that they're going through goes energetically. And like an example of this is like my mum. She lives in New South Wales. I'm in Victoria in Australia. And so it's a different state. And like I could wake up and have neck pain. And then, the thought would be, oh, I slept wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would kind of sit with it, and then it would kind of just stay there all day. And then I'd be like, let me just check with mum. And then I would check with her and go, hey, mum, like, have you had a sore neck? And is it here? And then she'd be like, yes, I had it today. I woke up with it this morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
Like, and as soon as I could cut those cords of connection, because every time you think of somebody,
yes.
you're already connecting.
You read my mind.
Every time. And it's like with social media, like that's a whole nother topic. But looking at someone's picture, you're connected to their energy. When you click on something, when you read something, you're already opening up yourself and connecting to the energy and the source of that thing, So it's really being mindful of how energy works as well. And we're definitely going to dive deeper into that, but definitely things that empaths need to understand to be able to, navigate this world, because this world really, if I'm being completely honest, is not made for empaths. It's actually really freaking traumatic.
Yeah.
Really, like, especially with all the systems and the ways of being that is the norm in society. It's a really, really traumatic place for empaths. It's not made for us. So
It's really not. And even just like, the social media platforms, like they're so overwhelming. They're so in your face. They're made like that because they want you to, they're a business, and that's how they rope you in, like, because they know how the human, functions. But,
exactly.
for empaths, it's just so much.
And I think empaths can feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is why with the shadow aspect of an empath, we can then go into addictive behaviors to avoid feeling.
Yeah.
And that can be like, addicted to social media, addicted to food. I overeat all the time.
Yeah, when I'm like
When I'm
stressed,
stressed.
yeah, I do as well.
So that's also like, that's a way of protecting. So there's a lot of like protective mechanisms that empaths employ to protect themselves from having to feel the brunt or the intensity of the energies that they're connecting to. And yeah, obviously we can talk about that in another episode, but I just feel like, yeah, the clearing thing is really like, it's been a game changer for me as well. And it strengthens my ability to be in this world because I know who I am. Like, and I think knowing who you are is so important. And, you know, understanding how you operate so you can work with yourself and empower yourself instead of being a victim to everything else that is happening to you.
Mm.
Because then you want to just run and hunt. There are days like, don't get me wrong, I haven't got this down pat,
Oh, same.
and nor do I want to, because then we're missing the experience of life. But it's like, it's really about like having that compassion and empathy for your own self. It's like directing all that empathy that you're giving to others and bringing it back to yourself and giving yourself the gift of who you are. Because to others, and like a lot of empaths will have had people just tell them about their problems like out of
Oh,
nowhere.
all the
You know, like
time.
just like going really deep because they know on a very subconscious level, they feel your energy is open and that you'd be non-judgmental, that you would be like empathetic to their situation, that you're somebody they can trust and that you can, yeah, just hold space for them. And so you'd have people just consistently coming to you.
That happened to me so much in my
I
life.
know, me too.
It still does happen. And like, I love it. I love being able to help. And, you know, it's so rewarding to contribute to somebody's life.
Yes.
And then I think it's just important to know the differences. And we'll obviously go into that on.
Yes. There's so much. Like, as we unpack this, we're really starting to see like the depth of
The
like
depth.
how much there is to discuss and just bring in like our own personal experiences and, you know, what we see and what we feel. And yeah, but there's just so much around this that I'm getting excited by it. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be able to delve deeper into all of these things.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to put words to it, you know, like, because I just like we just feel so much, and sometimes I struggle to articulate what I'm going through.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. And I was exactly the same. And I think we start to, as we learn our own language and we learn how to express ourselves. And I think this is where the creativity comes into play, right? Because I think you have a way of being able to express yourself through music and through songs. And I'm the same. And just, I think we can channel that into those projects to be able to convey a feeling or to convey what's happening internally. And I know as a child, like I danced. And so I was in dancing like from the age of like 3 up until I was about 16 or 15, 16. And if I didn't have dance, that was my outlet. Like for me, because I could not for the life of me speak to or name what I was feeling because everything was just everywhere. And so I think having an outlet to be able to have a space for all of that to go to and channel through, it's and that's like the epitome of an artist, right? Like what we hear is like turning pain into art, you know?
100%. And like, same for me, like music and singing like saved me because that's how I channel and like release my feelings. And sometimes I don't know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But it comes through in that way, you know, in that expression. And yeah, sometimes I don't know what I'm singing about, but when I when I listen back, I'm like, oh wow, like that is true for me. Like it's almost like my soul like made it come through, you know. So, and that's that energy language you're talking about, or the language so it definitely comes through. But I feel that immensely.
I think I wanted to say when you were talking about the language, right?
Yeah.
Because empaths don't speak in words, they speak energy.
Yeah.
That's their language.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say, it's the energy
Yeah.
you are embodying and projecting out into the world. That's what people are going to understand. So it doesn't really matter what you say.
Just say nothing.
Say nothing, just be.
Just
Just
be.
be.
Yeah, it's true. Because like
Yeah.
when I think about my music, my deep down intention is like to support, because like, and the doubt for me throughout my life was so massive that that's why I'm so passionate about, and I still come up against this, on the
Yeah, we
daily.
all do. Yeah, for
Yeah, and
sure.
it's a learning that will be forever. But that doubt is so that I want to support others, and I feel that because of my experience, it's kind of led me here, being an artist, to then channel that to other artists. And without me saying it, I've attracted people that experience that
100%.
without even
100%.
knowing,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I haven't gone out and sent this broadcast and said, come to me, like,
Well, maybe you
or
have.
maybe, maybe energetic.
Energetically.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just crazy, isn't it? And even just thinking about that now, it's like, how does that stuff happen? Like, I haven't, as I said, gone out and looked for people. Like, people have just found me and gone, wow, like,
Yes.
you really helped me with your music, and like, it's really healing. And I'm like, well, thank you. Like, that was my intention,
Yeah.
without having to like market that per se,
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's important.
It's amazing. So, and this is some of the gifts, right? Of like
Yeah.
being an empath, and, how we can actually use it as our superpower.
Oh,
Because I think it's made your life, my life, so much easier.
yeah. Like, as I said, I wouldn't be here as a creative, as a singer, as an artist
Mhm.
without my gift as an empath, because I wouldn't be able to make music.
Amen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make music that is true to me and therefore, resonates.
Resonates. Yeah. And I think, and that's the thing with empaths, they will find each other because
Yeah.
they feel the energy,
Yeah.
right? It's like we're magnets to each other. Whatever energy, that we're in, we attract that. Like we attract that energy. And so sometimes that can mean really difficult dynamics in relationships as well. But it also means attracting, when you're in alignment with yourself, friendships and, soul connections that go deeper than just surface level. And I think that's what empaths really crave, right? Is like
that connection,
that
or like
connection.
the full connection.
Yeah.
That's just that nourishment. And like, yeah, it's funny because like my friend that just found out she's an empath, like we've been friends for like 10 years.
Oh, wow. Yes.
and like she just discovered it. And it's just really interesting that we knew each other for so long, and we had this deep bond and didn't know why.
But did you feel it though that you knew that she was?
I actually didn't, strangely. Only like a little bit. But because like she was, a person that I can say was maybe scared of the gift. And so yeah, tried not to, I guess, feel it. But then a lot of her stuff would come through her dreams. And so, because she wasn't actively feeling, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's just crazy how, well, now we have this whole different relationship. Without us knowing, we were attracting each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so interesting. I did want to touch on the having to spend time alone.
Yes.
Because I know, I hope you're comfortable talking about like your kids are empaths.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how does your household operate?
We spend a lot of time apart. No. There's definitely points of connection, but like because I understand myself so much more, I understand that my children need time to themselves. Yeah. And I don't take it personally when they don't feel like they're in the mood to be in connection with people, because it's so overwhelming. Like I get it. And I think it makes me more compassionate towards that. Like, obviously, sometimes there's times where I'm like, you should be out here or you should be doing this and da da da. And that's just like, for me, I'm really committed to doing things differently. And because of the knowledge that I have, there's so much more available to me in the sense of like, knowing what I needed. So it's like I get this chance to kind of give the kids what I needed as a
As a
child,
child.
because like I just wanted my parents there emotionally for me, because they
Mm.
had no idea that I was because they had their own stuff that they were going through. So,
Mm.
and obviously I was feeling all of it, but I didn't have any reference point or like a space to even talk through what I was feeling. And even if I didn't know, just someone to be there, I think,
Yeah.
and just listen without any sort of like judgment about like what I'm feeling. And I try really hard to be that for my children. And sometimes they don't know what they're feeling, but it's through my example of the way that I speak to them and the way that I carry myself and express myself, because I used to not cry in front of them
Yeah.
at all. Like as a mum, like I would try to hide that. And that's how my mum was. Like my mum would hide all her emotions, but when I was around her, I could just feel how stressed she was. I could feel her isolating herself from us. And then that feeling of like, oh, she's there, but she's not there,
Mm.
and that emotional kind of feeling of neglect, really. And so I know that I did that for maybe the first half of their lives, where I was in a relationship that wasn't serving me, wasn't happy. I lost myself and I was so distracted because I didn't want to feel. And so I wasn't there emotionally for my kids, and I would hide my pain, but I really see that for me to like, want my children to understand that feeling is not bad, like
Mm.
feeling is not wrong. Feeling is just a way we can allow that energy to move through us without making us think that we're bad. Because most of the time we associate our feelings, like bad feelings, we associate them with actually being bad. And then we think we're bad people.
And that emotion that, we've spoke about this before, emotions are there and they're meant to
Yeah.
move through
They're
you.
meant to move through you. That's why having that channel of expression is so important, so that it does move through. You've got a flow that just comes and goes, comes and goes. And so yeah, I think learning this about myself has given me more tools to kind of create an environment for the kids to really, go through that process. And obviously, they have their own journey, and it's not something like I want to control. I want them to naturally unfold, but at least they know that I am there. So when they
Mm.
are feeling really intense feelings, I can support them in the way that I wished I was supported.
I love that. And I think
Yeah.
the emotional support is what we really need the most.
100%.
Like
100%.
that's the key thing
100%.
that I feel I didn't receive earlier on. And so it was just so hard.
Do you feel like is it more just someone being there and listening,
Yeah,
or
and
like
just the validation of like
your
your
feelings?
feelings. Yeah,
Yes.
that's to me now still so important. Like, you
Mhm.
know, yeah, just being seen and being heard is enough.
It is, because
Yeah.
nothing needs to be done, right?
No.
It's like when someone can just validate and go, like just validate your feelings instead of going, cuz I think, I don't know about you, but for me the response from others would be like, why are you feeling like that? You
Yeah.
shouldn't feel like that. Or, that's a bit silly to be feeling like that way. Or, like it's so devalidating. Like feelings are
Yeah.
feelings, and they're, and that's where I get the practice with my kids, right? It's
Hmm.
like I get to practice. And for me, it's like I can then direct that to me. I'm learning so much from being able to do that with my kids and to be able to do it with myself. Because I think also the thing with empaths is because we look external,
Mm.
we want someone outside of us to validate us, but we actually need to validate our
Ourselves.
own feelings first before that
Yeah.
can be a thing, because no matter how much someone validates you, if you don't validate yourself, you're never going to feel like,
Mm. You're allowed.
okay,
Yeah.
okay with your feelings.
Yeah. And it's such a great point. And I think earlier on in life, we don't realize that we need to, look within. And I think it's, maybe for a lot of people that self-reflection comes later in life. And
Yeah.
it's so important. But just, I guess for children in particular, I think it's so important that they're seen and
Yeah.
just listened to, and at the same time, they obviously need their own space at the same time, and not taking things personal is so
Personally.
important. And I remember
That's a
taking
big thing.
I remember taking things so personal, for a long time. And now I
Me
just don't
too.
do that as much, because I'm like, it's not about me.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of directed back to you. So
Yeah.
it's a big learning.
It's a huge learning curve,
Yeah.
because I think with empaths, they can then become very reactive
Yes.
to everything, because they are so reactive to the environment, to the energies. And so an energy comes in, or you feel something, there's a response that needs to happen, or reactivity. And without thinking, we go into whatever it is that we go into.
Yeah.
And so it's like learning to kind of like take a step back,
Have a breather.
take a breath.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but it's true.
It is. It's so true. And that helps me so much, especially with the kids.
Even just like, I don't have kids yet, but everyday situations, like, when someone's triggering you, just taking that, okay, I'm just going to leave that for now. And then like sitting on it, and maybe if I have to, there's no timeline to what I have to respond to things, and just getting myself together, and then going and responding, and over that reactivity, which I used to do a lot earlier on, and it didn't serve me well.
I was highly reactive.
Same. I was reacting to everything. And it's just not really helpful. So,
and it perpetuates when you're in that reactivity. It perpetuates your chaos, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
and it gets it's
more
like a what's that?
A cycle.
It's like and you're like, it gets bigger and it gets bigger, and you're like
a cyclone.
Yeah, it's a cyclone, and then you're like, holy shit!
I'm in the cyclone.
I'm in a cyclone. I should be in the psych ward.
Oh my goodness, so funny. Yeah.
I love that. I think there's just a lot that, if you have the tools and getting to know yourself, it's just it helps a lot. And then honing in on that, so you can channel it into that superpower, and doing the things you're supposed to do in your life, because everyone's here for a purpose. And it doesn't mean that you have to be singing or drawing, or it doesn't have to be this massive thing, but everybody has a role. And I think getting to that, working through all the stuff that may or may not be yours, and feeling yourself, it's just so much easier to then work out, because everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to know, what's my purpose here in life? Especially empaths. I feel like a lot of them are so compassionate. They want to give, and they're like, oh, how can I give? How
can I help the world? Because I think it's like there's something that I've noticed in working with clients that are empaths, because all of them are. There's something inside of them that calls them into service, that calls them into doing something that is going to be the greater good. And I think this is why I see that we aren't made for this world, because we're not meant to fit into this template. Like, we are here to birth a whole different way of being. Which includes compassion and empathy. And I feel like this is why we feel so different, because a lot of empaths feel that, like, I don't fit in, and then they try so hard to, like, I know I tried so hard to be like everybody else. And now I'm just discovering, like, it's okay to be different, and I actually celebrate that in people more, who have their own unique quirks. And because that's me, I've got my own unique quirks. And I think we are here to create a more inclusive humanity, because I feel like we've just strayed so far from what we know as empaths it could be, like the
Yeah.
possibility of what it could be, because we know it in our heart, we carry it in our heart. It's because it's inside of us. We were born this way because we're here to create a new way of being.
Yeah. I just second that so much.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
now in the world, there's a lot that's
Yeah.
happened. And
There is.
I know for myself in the last year, like 2020 for me was equally very difficult, but very rewarding at the same
Oh,
time,
massively.
because I
Mhm.
got to sit with my stuff, sort
Mhm.
my deeper issues, at the time, and um, work out what I was meant to be doing here. And I feel why I guess had a lot more traction quicker in that year,
Yes.
because I was able
Yes.
to do that. I wasn't being distracted because, lockdown was as awful as it was. It's kind of helped me a lot.
Yeah,
I'm not
massively.
massively, and I know that a lot of empaths came online or realized that they were last year because they
Well, because they didn't
uh,
have distractions
that's
and then
right.
they had to feel. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I can second that because I've connected with a lot of them,
Yeah.
throughout the pandemic through readings and things like that. And I can definitely say that all of them that I've connected to have had huge, like massive shifts in their
Yeah.
lives because they've had to sit with themselves. They've got
No
nothing else.
choice.
There's no choice. You can't run away from yourself when you're in lockdown.
Yeah. And it's just like, it really taught me to be like, okay, like this is how I want to operate moving forward.
Yeah.
And I don't have to say yes to something if I don't want to do it.
Mhm.
And things that drain me, like I don't have to do those things. And giving myself that permission was massive. And setting the
Yes.
boundaries have
Boundaries.
been
Yep.
massive. Again, this podcast is for, creative empaths, and we really wanted to shine light on, our own experiences and how uncovering this step by step has led us to where we are today. And it can be
Mm.
very empowering. As much as, people say it's a blessing and a curse. Yes, it is. But the blessings are so, so fulfilling when you are able to push through and learn about, how your gift can support you. And I think that's why we're both so passionate about this, because we need we need you guys now.
We
We
need
need
we need the
we need
creatives,
them right now more than ever.
especially with what is happening in the world right now. It's the dreamers,
Yeah.
the ones that envision a world that is not like the one that we're living in. And these things can become reality through our creativity. It's that innovation to create something totally different. Like someone who is a scientist can be
Yeah.
creative. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just everywhere. It's not just limited to, it's just how you express yourself in the world. I think that's part of creativity, right?
Yeah.
It's just, everyone has a different expression and how that comes out, but it's actually in the card that I drew today. It's Meraki. I think it's Meraki, but it's the essence of your soul that is in the creations that you leave behind, which is like a legacy.
Yes.
And it influences our future generations. Like, I just feel like the time is now for the creatives
Yeah.
to step up and create a world that we all want to live in. The experience that I've had in terms of opening myself up to the gifts of being an empath and how it has supported me in being able to create in a way that is not like what's being taught to me in this society. And I'm still unraveling from that kind of programming of like having to force creation, where this is such a organic process and there's a beauty to that process. And a lot of the times I see creatives getting stuck in the end result, like being too attached to like how it's got to be, what it's got to look like, that they miss the whole point of the process and the joy and the unfoldment and the magic inside of the process. inside of that unfolding. And I really want to spark that joy of just being, because it's a beingness. It's not when we're looking at, the end product or the end result of what we're trying to create, we lose the essence of, that inspiration of why it got us to move in the first place, and those passions. I really want to ignite people's passions. I think I had a lot of passions as well. And it's like to be able to experience myself in being able to bring them to life, like, whoa, there's no better feeling than that. And I think that's what I really wanted to highlight, to lead into, I guess, the next episode where we go a little bit deeper.
And it's that not looking outside yourself, because all the answers are within. And when we work through all the stuff that we face as empaths, you get to the gold.
You get to the magic and the treasure, the diamond, the pearl. I love it.
Well, until next time.
Until next time.